Assalamu alaikum, program Perspectives. I'm your host, Ulam Nabi Morai. Viewers, we were doing program Passe Aina on the same pattern we have started this program. That was also liked by our viewers, but many of you approached us and advised us to do this program in English so that the message goes to the wider audience. We have therefore switched over from Passe Aina to Perspectives, the similar program where one topic is analyzed from different perspectives. So, as usual, our intellectual historian analyst, Sayyid Mubala Shah Sahab with us. Shah Sahab, you want to say something about Passe Aina?
Yes, I think we like to tell the viewers, as you said very rightly, because of interest many viewers had shown, that we should do it in English language so that our message, our views are shared with a wider audience. And we started this program now. This is the first of the series, Perspectives. And the topic that we have chosen for discussion today is interfaith harmony. We have chosen this topic very carefully as the first of the series, because interfaith is important, necessary in a society, even otherwise. But these days, because of the events that are going on in the world, this has also become urgent, that people need to realize the dangers which are being created by violating the interfaith harmony. Now let me explain first what we mean by interfaith harmony and why is it necessary. When we talk of interfaith harmony, what we mean is that there should be peace and harmonious relations among followers of different faiths. Full stop. Peaceful and harmonious relations among followers of different faiths. And why is it necessary? It's necessary to have this peace and harmony among people so that all of them can achieve the fruits of progress and prosperity. Otherwise, the society will get engulfed into different kinds of conflicts and negativity, and it will ruin the peace, tranquility, and the prosperity of people. Now, this topic, the need for harmony, as I said, is not only necessary, but it has become a very urgent issue these days. It has become urgent because of the kind of carnage that is going on in Gaza. For more than a month, people in Gaza, children, women, other civilians, are being bombarded every day for more than a month. And Gaza is a very small, confined territory. Gaza is not a country where you can run away to faraway places and be safe. It's a confined, like a concentration camp, and those children or women or men, they cannot get out of there. They just sit where they are and are bombarded from now. Now for more than a month, so much bombing has taken place that the Human Rights Watch says that the total bombardment over Gaza, the people of Gaza, is as much as 2 atom bombs that were dropped during the World War II. Just imagine, they were dropped, one on Hiroshima and the other on Nagasaki. But those were large towns and there was a vast territory, open ground. That much of destructive and firepower has been dropped over a confined area in which people are living and they cannot run away to save themselves. So one can imagine what kind of barbarism has been going on, what kind of cruelties have been going on, and where there are only children, women, and civilians to suffer who have nowhere to run away from. What the world has been seeing this because it's been going on for a month now. And who is doing this? This is being done by a government of a country which was created for the people of a particular religion. They are doing this bombardment on a confined area where children, women, and civilians are suffering. And who are these people who are now who are suffering from this bomb? These are the people who belong to different faiths. Now, this is the serious issue which is rising. And the world has to take notice of it. This is why, again, we are raising this issue of interfaith, because it's not just necessary, it is an urgent issue. Here is the world saying the people of the government of a particular faith is dropping equivalent to 2 atom bombs on people who belong to different faiths. And the world is not able to stop that. What it has done is that it has created an interfaith conflict. And that is what we want to draw the attention, that there's an urgent need to stop this. This is not just a political issue, this is becoming an issue between 2 religions. And it's this kind of a thing will spread out. It will not be confined to Gaza, but it is spread out to 4 corners of the world. Therefore, it is very important that this kind of a thing should be stopped. And unfortunately, the United Nations has tried to stop this, but somehow the politics seem to be so supreme that these humanitarian and these interfaith issues are not being given due importance before the politics. Now, unfortunately, that's the unfortunate truth. People generally, they live peacefully and harmoniously with each other all over the world. It's the politics of some people which creates the poison between the relationship. Otherwise, it would not happen.
And more particularly of Second World War.
This is something which when we see this, for instance, what we are seeing over there, because of the Western media and some leaders of the Western governments, they have been so strongly supporting Israel with all its barbarism, and there is so little sympathy for Palestinians, children or women or civilians, that it has created a kind of heavy prejudice, discrimination, and hate against Palestinians. This is the new version, let us say, of Islamophobia, where the whole community is being branded and they are being called bad names. If one hears what is being said by some of the Israeli leaders, or even by their supporters in other countries. There is an English proverb, give a dog bad name and hang him. Now, they want to do these barbarities, they want to do these cruelties, but before that they want to paint them as subhuman, as not entitled to human dignity and human rights, and therefore they can do these things over there. But as I said earlier, this kind of a thing, as it is going on, it will spread. It will spread to the 4 corners of the world, because there are followers of faiths all over the world. And the world is a very complicated and an interconnected place. It is interconnected because people have moved for centuries from one territory, one country, or a continent to the others. So if you look at any country now, there are people who live there with a different kind of background. There is a diversity of religious, cultural, racial, and political backgrounds of people who live in every country. Which means what? Which means it is very important to be sensitive to this diversity of opinions, and therefore a greater need that there should be interfaith harmony, because the dangers of that are much too high.
Yes, let's meet after the break. Welcome back. Shah, very well explained and gave a very good introduction about the topic. Now, give us our endeavor viewers, the wars which have taken place in the history based on religion, or religion is a major component.
Well, you see, if we go back in history, history has a lot to teach us if we want to learn from history.
By the way, they are very good quotes. Anybody who knows the history will learn a lot from the history, and he becomes a brave man to fight with the day-to-day.
Okay. So if we look at history, of course there have been wars, and there have been for all kinds of reasons. But generally, there have been three major causes of wars in the world. Wars have been fought for economic reasons. Wars have been also fought for political reasons and for power purposes. And the wars have also been fought for religious purposes. And there are other examples also. And when we look at the wars that have been fought over the religious purposes, they count about 8%, roughly, by one estimate. There can be other estimates too. And two of the major wars that generally come out in history, which were based on religious issues, causes were religious. The two wars that are generally counted, one are the crusades between Christians and the Muslims for nearly 200 years, from 11th century to 13th century. These were the wars which were fought, series of them, which were fought over the control of Jerusalem. Because at that time, these were the wars because Jerusalem is a place which is sacred for all three religions, for Islam, for Christianity, and Judaism. And now these crusades were the wars which were fought between Christians and the Muslims for 200 years. Ultimately, it was Saladin, finally, who fought and won the war, and Jerusalem came under Muslim control for a long time, and the Mamluks in Egypt. And then the other wars, which also lasted for nearly 200 years, these were the European wars. These were the wars which were fought between Christians among themselves. Because in the 15th and early 16th century, there was a Reformation movement in Europe. There was a protest and resentment against Catholic Church. Let's say the Molvis of the Christian world and the Pope, because there were many allegations of corruption, nepotism, and just accumulating wealth, etc., etc. So there was this Reformation, a movement to reform. And this is how the Protestant faith came into being. But then for nearly 200 years, there were wars between the Catholics and the Protestants. about 16th century, 17th century, went away to this. The one which is generally the most important, which is mentioned in history in these European wars, is a 30-year war, which lasted for 30 years, from 1618 to 1648. Why is it important and why is it considered and become so famous? Because at the end of that war, in 1648, the European leaders learned a great many lessons. That wars are only causing death and destruction, and that they only bring miseries and sufferings to people, and there should be ways found to see that there is a stop to this kind of a rampage. And they said one of the ways it will be that to create certain new concepts, which we are following till today in the world. The first was the concept of nation state. Earlier, this concept was not there. For instance, if there were territories, there were countries, but the concept of a national state was not there. There were no boundaries, let us say, which are sacred, or they are protected of a particular territory. Look at here in the history of the subcontinent. Somebody comes from Samarkand, somebody comes from Uzbekistan, somebody comes from Afghanistan, Iran, and they go through here all the way to Delhi and to Hyderabad, Takir, and to Bengal. No distinction. The world is open. Wherever you can go, wherever your power can take you, or grab whatever you can. So they put a stop on this. Okay, now there's a nation state. This nation state is sovereign. You can't interfere. There's no interference in it, non-interference. So the new concept came of nation state, so that these religious wars do not, from one country, do not pass into another country. There is a boundary, there is a nation state, and it is sovereign, and this country cannot interfere into relations of this country, whatever be the reason. Even though you may have same religion, but you cannot interfere in each other's relations. Similarly, they said, okay, instead of fighting wars to resolve your problem, there's a diplomacy, there's mediation, there's negotiation, there's a civilized way of resolving disputes, instead of, picking up swords and going fighting and killing. So this was a very important treaty. All these principles, new concepts, they were incorporated into the Treaty of Westphalia, 1648, which in a way lays the ground of the modern world that we see today. So this is in a way a historical perspective that wars have been going on because they were open territory, and then they were stopped by creating these concepts of nation state, non-interference, using diplomacy. So what we see is that there have been, in history, there have been warmongers who want war after war. They want a booty, they want to grab territory, they want to grab resources. This is part of the human nature, but there is the other thing also. There are warmongers, there are peacemongers also. You want peace and tranquility in a civilized way of conducting relations between religions also, between the states and people also. When we look at the peacemongers, there are many, but one of the major development that took place in the modern world was in 1893. This was a congregation which is called the Parliament of World Religions. This was an initiative taken by Christian religious leaders in Chicago, in the United States, 1893, when they invited religious leaders of all major faiths, Islam, Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism, Buddhism, and other major religions, to try and work out to gather on certain principles where peace and tranquility can be promoted, harmonious relations can be promoted, the interfaith harmony can be promoted. But those were private efforts, and therefore there was no mechanism of enforcement of good ideas, good resolutions that were passed. Now how to implement them, nobody had authority. But that was the one major attempt in terms of from private sector. Now of course we have the United Nations, which is an institutional world body which has been given the authority. And among the mandates of the United Nations, the three main mandates it has are: one, to maintain peace, religious peace, politically, so racially, and in many cases, to maintain peace in the world. Second, to protect human rights. And three, to provide humanitarian aid and assistance. But as we have seen, the United Nations has been partly successful. Its success is often blocked. Its major efforts are blocked by the veto power of the major powers in the Security Council, which is what we are seeing is happening in the Gaza also. Even though this bombing has been going on for a month, the United Nations tried several times, and many other countries, including also the United Nations Secretary General, for a ceasefire so that humanitarian aid and assistance can go to the people, civilians of Gaza. Water, food, medicine, fuel, because they were denied all that by the Israeli forces. This was like a blockade. But those things were blocked and they were not allowed to pass through. So this effort of bringing peace in the world is sometimes blocked by the games which the main powers play, and what we are seeing in Gaza is an example of how the humanitarian work of United Nations is blocked by the power politics which has been played by United States and the UK and one or two other Western powers. We will then continue the rest of the discussion in the second one.
Let's meet after the break. Welcome back. Shah Sahib, very well explained about the introduction of the topic, and then you also gave the historical background of so many things of interfaith harmony. Now, in the modern perspective, what is the way forward to promote interfaith harmony?
Okay, now to talk about promoting interfaith harmony in the modern world, you see, when people who violate interfaith harmony or who violate harmonious relations between people with different backgrounds, whether they have different religious backgrounds, racial backgrounds, cultural backgrounds, or political backgrounds, they use an old tactic which is going on since colonial days. It's called dehumanization. How to dehumanize your opponent, whether it's your religious opponent, your cultural, your political, and others, to say that he is less than a human being and therefore not entitled to the same treatment as I as a human being am. No, he's a lesser creature, and therefore I can oppress, I can be cruel, I can be brutal, I can torture, I can kill, because he's not equal, he's less than human, he's like an animal. This is the tactic which 16th and 17th and 18th century, the colonials, when they went to Africa or even to Asia, this is what they used. They are not human, they are subhuman, and therefore killing or torturing, no, we are doing a good thing to them, we are civilizing them. This is an old colonial tactic which is used to dehumanize your opponent before you start your oppression, your prejudices, your torturing or killing, which is what is going on over there in Gaza. They have been given these bad names before. And this is generally, one doesn't need even to repeat. They are so bad names that are being given. But the truth is that it has not just happened against Palestinians or Muslims. It has this dehumanization and has also been done against people of other religions. There have been times when these tactics were used against Jews for some time, for quite some time, against Christians, against Hindus, against Buddhists, and also these days these are going on against Muslims. And therefore this, the word that has generally been talked about, Islamophobia, the prejudice and discrimination and unfair treatment of Muslims that is becoming fairly common across the world. Now, in the modern world that you talked about, one thing that stands out, which damaged interfaith harmony very severely, was at the beginning of this 21st century, when the so-called war on terror was unleashed in 2001. That was a war where the victims were mostly Muslims in Iraq, or in Afghanistan, or in Libya, or in Syria. And then the mood, the hate and discrimination against Muslims increased in the Western countries, in the United States and in Europe. The Muslims felt a sense of discrimination and prejudice which they earlier did not feel. So this Islamophobia actually in modern world had started with the beginning of the 21st century. We saw the wars in the name of this war of terror, and we also saw the discriminations against Muslims, whether in the United States or in Europe. And then we also see in the next door in India, the discriminations against Muslims and also against other minorities. A systematic discrimination and specific laws and policies passed by the Modi government which persecute, discriminate and cause harm to the Muslims. And unfortunately, this is a peculiar thing with in Modi government. And the truth is that in India it was not the case before. Even before Modi, there was a BJP government of Mr. Vajpayee. He did not do these anti-Muslim things which the Modi government is doing, not the Congress or other governments which were there before in India. This is peculiar to Modi government since 2014 or so, when he came to power, and increasingly it has been going on. What the sad thing is, it's not just the people where it is going on, but the role of the government is also very partisan. Instead of giving protection to minorities from attacks and other acts of violence against them, the government is becoming a party to protecting the bigots and the criminals who commit these offenses against Muslims and other minorities. So India is another case of Islamophobia, which is generally gathering this storm in many countries. Then, of course, we should not forget Pakistan. There has been a discrimination against religious minorities in Pakistan also. And the government of Pakistan and the society also of Pakistan has to put their act together. We just can't blame others and not look into our own selves. There's a Sialkot incident, there's a this Jallianwala incident, and then there are many other incidents.
Few incidents.
Many other instances that are happening in different provinces. whether it is Sindh, Balochistan or Punjab or KPK. So the government of Pakistan has also to remove this blot on its name and take measures, laws and policies, and respect the interfaith harmony and respect the equality and protection to the religious and other minorities. So that is important. But the worst case that we see again is Gaza. We have surveyed in the modern world what happened in the Middle East, in Iraq or in Libya, also what happened in India and what happened here in Pakistan too. But the worst case is what we are seeing. What we are seeing in Gaza is unparalleled. It's truly unparalleled.
It is true.
There have been cruelties, barbarities, killings, tortures, the way in different countries. Some of these we talked about. Nothing like that has happened elsewhere as it is happening in Gaza. The fact is, Gaza is, let's say, like a territory, people living in this territory. It's a small one, about 40 miles long and about 5 miles wide. Okay? 200 square miles. And there are 2 million people. More than 2 million people living in that. Huh? It's not a country like Pakistan or Afghanistan or Iraq or Libya or Canada or America or France or Germany, where you can go to rural areas far away from the cities. There is nowhere to go. You are confined within this. It's like this, 40 miles long and 5 miles wide. Everybody is here and the bombs are coming about you. There's nowhere to go. This kind of a cruelty has not happened before. And as the Human Rights Watch also says, that the cumulative bombing over these children and the civilians has been equal to the ferocity and the destructive power of the 2 atom bombs, which were dropped in the World War II on Hiroshima and on Nagasaki. So, but the sad part that comes is the role that, as I said, the support that the major world powers from the West, they have been giving the United States and UK and the EU leaders, has been very disappointing. They have shown no consideration for the victims and everybody amongst them. They have been solidly behind Israeli government, especially Netanyahu, and encouraging him, standing behind so that he can continue with the cruelty. This has been, I think it has damaged. It has damaged the image of the United States and the EU leader and the UK, the Prime Minister, and the rest of the world, especially among Arab and Muslim population in the world. So it's for them to see how to improve their image. Now, what can be done? Ultimately, there has to be an international, United Nations a kind of a system, a UN system under which some kind of a legal structure is created so that this kind of a hatred becomes illegal. There is a laws passed in Western countries against, you can't speak against Holocaust. You can't speak, you can't be anti-Semitic. You will be legalized. So, and there are many laws against child pornography, and many. There should be laws against this promoting Islamophobia, to ban this. And so, to close this, yes, the interfaith harmony should be seen 2 or 3 points. It should be seen that harmony is not homogeneity. It's not this uniformity. Harmony recognizes the diversity, that there is a religious diversity, and harmony be created out of diversity, not enforcing uniformity, but to create harmony out of diversity. If we respect that, the differences of opinion, religious, political, cultural, racial, and then work together to find harmony, then this kind of a world can give us peace and prosperity. Otherwise, promoting these conflicts have been, causing millions of deaths, as they are causing even today, and the world will become less secure and less peaceful and more violent and more destructive. Let us hope that everybody recognizes the need for interfaith harmony and works to promote it. Governments, organizations, as well as everybody. This is not just the government's duty. Every human being, all of us must recognize and respect that there is a diversity and there should be peaceful and harmonious way of interacting with each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Shah Sahab. Viewers, you can watch this program on Mehran TV on Thursday after 7 p.m. news, and the same night AM, and the next day 2 p.m. after news. Thank you.